The Dental Brief is brought to you by Omni Premier Marketing and the amazing guests who bring wisdom and advice that you can put to use to take your business and practices to the next level. Find us on Facebook and join the conversation. Get ready to grow because we are kicking off the next episode in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Brief. We're back this year. It's our second video recording. Really excited about this. Really excited for today's guest as well. Dr. And if I butcher your name, please forgive me. Dr. Karandeep Brar. Did I say that correctly?
Yep. Spot on,
Got
Patrick.
Awesome. We're starting off on a positive note here. Welcome to the show. Grateful to have you here. Let's just jump right in. Tell us, how'd you get involved in dentistry? How'd you become a dentist?
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm excited to be a part of the new video segment of the show. So with me, I got into dentistry. Basically, I had a lot of teeth problems growing up. So I became very comfortable with going to the dentist. And ultimately for me, I had a lot of self-confidence, self-esteem issues because of my smile at a younger age. And, I met a great dentist. He acted as like a friend to me growing up, helped change my smile. And I just fell in love with the power of dentistry. And from there, I went to dental school, graduated in 2017, and bought a few offices. And this is where we're at now, growing quickly, enjoying it.
Yeah. So that's, it's actually, I think we're going to talk about this a little bit. So 2017, you started as an associate, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, so I worked briefly as an associate. I worked for maybe 6 months. And at that point, I realized that I just wanted to buy an office. So I quit and I spent 3-4 months looking for an office. I was just at home, just looking for offices to purchase. And I purchased my first one in September of 2018.
So how'd that go? How was your first 3 months, 6 months, 9 months owning a practice that someone else managed before you?
Yeah, no, it's looking back at it, I've probably blocked out a lot of the traumatic stuff, but I was very fortunate to know that I had a great mentor. I actually had a coach, a mentor who helped me through that process. And I know in the early stages, it was a lot of me going to him and saying, hey, this is happening. What do I do? This is happening. What do I do? This is happening. What do I do? And you realize that it's difficult because we're not trained how to run a business, and it's completely different than being a dentist. But if you can follow a few steps and a strategic way, it's not as hard as maybe your colleague tells you down the street. And that's only because I had a mentor who'd been there, done that. So he helped me avoid a lot of the common problems people go through and learn the hard way. And sometimes they don't even learn from them because they think that's just a part of owning a business.
Right.
So I built a lot of good habits from him at an early stage, which made the transition from those first few months of just getting my feet wet, understanding how to lead a team and fit in, and also create my own office that was personal to what I wanted it to be. And then
Sure.
ever since then, it's just been, I'm putting my own twist on it now at this point because I have the confidence.
That's awesome. So you went from, here's what's going to, I think, blow our audience away. You went in 2017 to no practices, right? By the end of 2017, one practice. We're here at 2022. There was a pandemic. I know some of our audience may not know that, but there was a pandemic. How many practices do you have now?
So currently we have 6. We'll be looking to close on 2 more before the end of the year. So end the year with 8 locations.
That's unheard of, right? How many people do you know go from one practice to 6, 7, 8 practices within a 5-year period of time?
Yeah, I think it depends. Like I know docs who do it, but the one thing I'm proud of is what I've been able to do so far has been without any type of private equity, any type of capital infusion from a group. It's all been just me, commercial lending, and building relationships. So it's a slower way to do it, but still 8 locations, right? So it's not that slow. You can still make things happen if you're a strong operator.
So in any type of business, it doesn't, and not even business, in life in general, when you have a tremendous amount of success quickly, right? People usually only see the success. They don't see some of the pain, right, that you want to avoid. But when you have that level of success, it kind of creates two different types of followers that you have, right? You have the followers who really don't like you very much, right? Think you're doing something wrong, or that we'll call them the haters, right? I think that's a pretty fair thing. And for a lot of people, they'll say, hey, if I have haters, I'm doing something right. Yeah. I think I agree with that most of the time. But then there's the other type where there's people that are asking you questions that want to learn from you and want to understand. So with that being said, let me jump into the next question. Those people that want to learn from you, what are some of the challenges that you see that dentists are facing out right now, right? Some younger dentists, we'll say 2017, you're a younger dentist. What are some challenges that they're facing? And then what are some ways to overcome these challenges?
One of the biggest things I see is just the poor information that's out there. So with social media, with quick, instant access to information, that doesn't mean it's always quality information. And someone can have a strong voice, a group can have a strong voice, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's quality information either. And unfortunately, I think that's the biggest hurdle. And dentists are, they're just like everyone else. If you hear something enough, you start to believe it. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. So one is finding the right people to learn from. And like you said, for the haters analogy, just because something seems too good to be true, be open-minded to at least hear the other person or hear that group out and make the decision for yourself. Don't jump to saying, hey, this can't be the way to do things because that's, that group or that person told me, oh, that's not possible. Becoming, not having limits on what you think is possible and starting to think outside the box, that's step one to handling all this poor information that's out there, in my opinion. And that's what I did. I stayed open-minded, and I didn't put a limit on what I was capable of. And then you'll meet some very highly successful, high-performing people, and they'll tell you straight up, it's possible. That doesn't mean it's probable, but it's possible. And then if it's possible, that was enough for me to get excited and to continue to learn and challenge myself. And that's where a lot of my success started.
Sure. I think, it makes a ton of sense that when you talk about the information that's online, I'm in a couple of different types of online groups that I read and follow and what have you, on social media and Facebook, for instance, I'm in some dental groups. I'm also in some car groups. I kind of like some different types of cars. So some boating groups. So I see these types of things. I just noticed this the other day. Someone in an auto group said, what's the cheapest insurance out there? And they got a bunch of answers. It's Geico, it's this company, say whatever, and it's such a bad question. And people are answering it. Is it the cheapest insurance, or are you looking for the best coverage? Right. And I think a lot of people don't know the right question to ask. So they ask questions like, is it cheaper, what have you? So who you follow is so important. Now, talking about who you follow, your mentor or mentors that you've worked with or people that you follow, is there anyone outside of the dental industry that you're learning from and that you're gaining wisdom from too?
Yeah. So now my mentors are outside of dentistry for the most part, because as you start having multiple offices and we want to build a big company, just because you're a dentist doesn't mean you know how to create that. And it's better if you probably don't look for a dentist. If you look at the CEOs of some of these big DSOs, they're not all of them aren't dentists, and there's a reason. So I'm starting to branch out and find mentors who've scaled businesses and done it efficiently, and that's basically where my mind's at in terms of who I want to learn from at this point.
Makes sense. So let me ask you this question: when you see a practice that's one practice, I talk to a lot of dentists that, when they're doing their first startup, they always have this vision. They want to own 5 or 6 practices, and they kind of plan that first practice and maybe some of their branding and what have you based off of growing. And some will do that. Others will just have so many headaches, pain that they don't necessarily need to have, that they'll never want a second practice. And then others will get into their first practice and go, I love my life. I love my lifestyle. I love what I'm doing here. I love the amount of hours that I'm putting in. I love the financial benefit that I'm getting back from it. And it's perfect the way that it is. And that's great too. So let me ask you this. What are some mistakes that you see when that person wants to go from one practice to the second practice? What are some big mistakes and risks that you see dentists face?
The biggest, I think, is a lack of clarity on why you want the second practice. Because if you think you're going to just buy a second practice and it's just going to double what you're doing, so you're just going to keep replicating that, that's easier said than done. On paper, it looks great. On paper, you're like, this is the best thing in the world. I'm just going to keep doing what I've done. And then you realize that you've accomplished what you've done at your first location because of you. That's the main reason. It's not because of your systems. It's your leadership was great for your team because you were there every day of the week. So getting that second location, you have to really learn how to manage people remotely. And that's more delegating, learning how to delegate responsibilities. And that requires investing in people. You don't get high quality managers by not paying them well. And then you start running into the issue of, okay, but that cuts into my profits. So like that's how dentists, I think about it majority of the time when they're not ready to scale. So going into getting that second location, you want to have a very clear idea of why you're doing it in the first place. And then work back from there and then understand what's going to be required, whether it be a pay cut on your end, reduced hours, or a certain type of culture in the office that's going to be required. So I think most dentists don't have that clarity. They just want to buy a second office and think it's just going to be a copy of the first one.
Sure. And I would assume if your first office can't run without you, might be a telltale sign that you might not be ready for a second office. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but you don't test that out. Your office, you don't walk away and say, oh, is it working? Usually, at least what I did was I would just take weeks off and the office would be closed and we still did great. So most dentists don't actually try to walk away from the office and make it productive. Now, the dentists that do that, they're a little bit more on the entrepreneurial side, and they'll probably have a better vision. But some dentists who like to work and they're like, oh, let me just get a second location, that's when they run into some issues.
Awesome. So what's your vision for your group? I know you said you've got a couple more practices that you plan on coming on board with here soon. What's your 3 and 5 year goal, if you don't mind sharing that with the audience?
Yeah, sure. I've cut back on putting timelines on my goals. Right now, it's to grow a company that we're proud of, that I'm proud of, provide the best care to our patients, and to continue to acquire offices as quickly as we can, whether that's 3 next year or 10 next year. It just depends how things play out. But right now, we're just focused on having quality offices in our group. And quality, I mean, to the T, technology, great doctors, great team, great culture. We want to be a high-end, great group that services all patients. And that includes, state insurances. We're incorporating that in our offices because, those patients need to be treated as well. They're not just, they don't just go to the mills. We want to be able to give those patients the best treatment as well.
That's awesome. Good for you. I love that. I'm going to ask you one more question because you talked about culture. So last question, how have you handled keeping fully staffed or trying to keep fully staffed? Do you see that as a real problem? Do you see that as a made up problem? Kind of give us your insight and expertise, advice on that.
I do think it's an issue. When it becomes easier, I don't know. But I know it's been difficult on us as well because culture. We emphasize culture. And what I think a lot of groups will find out in any business is once you sacrifice your standards to just fill a role, you'll quickly realize it wasn't a good decision. And that's something that I've gone through and I've learned the hard way. But that's what happens when the economy changes. Like this is what being an entrepreneur is about. You don't have control over these things. You just throw things on the wall. And this is something I learned from my mentor. You pull the trigger, right? You try something, doesn't work, you move on. You don't dwell on it. You don't get upset. You don't blame so-and-so. You just deal with it, move forward, But yeah, it's been tough. And I would say just keep trying things. Everyone's culture is a little different. Sometimes you don't need a certain type of, attitude for a position, but it just depends on your business model. But when it gets easier, I have no idea, honestly.
Sure. Makes sense to me. Dr. Brar, I want to thank you for being here. First, I just want to encourage the audience to check out your website. It's brightchoicedentistry.com, correct?
Yes, that's the site that has all of our locations.
Awesome. Yeah, check it out. It's amazing to see what you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on. We'd love to have you back.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Patrick.